All right, here we are. We are live. Bitcoin is at new all-time highs at 237,000. Who would have thought that, eh? What a way to start the week. I mean, this is it. It's
What?
time.
My charts are wrong, man. Probably I'm not connected to the internet because obviously
Oh,
it's not happening here.
your chart's not look mine look like that. I got ETH at 17,000. I mean, it really broke out hard. Yeah.
I think we should start with that every single day, and some days it's gonna become a reality, man. Like you know what I mean? Like, and you know what? By that time, you say, "Oh, Bitcoin is at 250,000 out," and I was shorting Bitcoin, so I'm fucked. Right. It is
Oh,
what it is,
dear.
isn't it? Like, yeah. Anyway, how you guys doing?
Oh, this I tell you a narrative that I've been hearing more and more of
Mm-hmm.
is this cycle extension. It's like just skimming around YouTube, like not even looking for it, if you know what I mean. This thing
Yep.
of we're going to be deep into 2026 and we're still going to be in the bull run and this is going to change everything. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like Bitcoin's kind of done what it's always done at roughly the time that it's always kind of done it, if you know what I mean. There hasn't been anything, I suppose it could be like the turkey that wakes up, everything's okay until Christmas Day. And I'd love to be like absolutely wrong and us to be in a raging bull market for the next 10 months. But I don't know, that seems like I
I'll show
think
you something.
I
Yeah.
think it's in the final phase now. Like I think that we've got another price discovery to come in Bitcoin because don't forget, even though it was a bit limp, the last
Mm,
price discovery for Bitcoin made a new all-time high before it
mm,
started pulling back. So we are still in that. But I think this for Bitcoin, I think this next price discovery, like the risk to reward, might not even be worth investing in
mm.
in Bitcoin, And then it's just alts, and we don't know if we're going to have sector pumps or if we're going to have a
Mm.
total blowout. So there's still a lot to come. But I
Oh,
think we're
definitely,
running out
man.
of time. Like my point is, I think we're running out of time. And I see all these other cats saying, "Oh, we've got fucking another year of the what? Another year? That would be. I mean, I'd love to be wrong, you know."
This is one of the things that no one knows, man. To be honest, and this landscape in terms of crypto changes so rapidly. Like you could be thinking that it's gonna last in 2030 or 2026 or 2025, and then all of a sudden a new development happening next week, and you completely right or you completely wrong. That's it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the environment that we live on right now. And especially with all these new developments, all this new stuff happening every day, it's a tough gig. So you could, but then to get there, you might get a lot of whipsaws. You know what I mean? In terms of because a lot of people say, yeah, we're gonna get another bull run. But is that going, what happened on Friday? I'll show you the charts because Friday was I'll show you the 15-minute chart on Bitcoin, and it was a huge, huge wipeout, man. And things like that, it makes it very, very hard to trade with leverage. Spot is a different story, but that's kind of the challenge, of crypto. And then you do mention something that I'm going to be talking today is seasonality, right?
Mhm.
You mentioned that Bitcoin is doing what it's been doing for the last couple of years. And TradingView has a really great tool to actually visualize that. I'll show you. I'll show you guys so you can actually see what you are actually talking about. Because a lot of people, you know, oh man, it's a tough one. You know what I mean? I don't tend to, you hear how many people saying it's going to last up to 2026 or even beyond that or whatever. But what doesn't really mean? Like, for instance, since we had good really spot trades that we're still on since last year, and then we were positioning correctly, and some of them were shit. some of the coins that actually did well remain on profit, but some of the other ones didn't. So that's the same thing that's going to happen in 2026 or 2030. Some of them are going to bump. Obviously, they're going to be a huge retrace, but are they going to retrace to the same listing price even below that or things like that? Those are those are the ones that are going to be tricky to find, you know. So yeah, that's my take in a way, you know.
Nice. Okay, well, before we go any further, then we'll handle this very delicately. Maurizio fucked up. Yeah, he
Fucked up.
fucked up. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the actual. And it is a fucked up, but it's not a fucked up. Now we're gonna go in details why I think it's not and why I think it is. So first of all, I want to
Anyone, can
apologize.
anybody guess? Can anybody guess what we're talking about before we have the quick autopsy?
And I just realized, you know what I mean? I wasn't like, yeah.
Yeah,
All right. How many of you guys took the trade of launch coin?
launch,
Question.
not lunch coin, Ian. Launch coin. Zoe Gates. Okay, Zoe. What did you? So Zois. What did you use? What number did you use for your stop on that trade?
Or did you just use or did you just bought the spot? Like did you just bought the coin itself?
Hmm.
Just quick question here.
Leverage with
Yep.
M's. Okay.
All right. So let me share my screen and I do apologize because obviously let me just share my screen because yeah, there is a typo. Like I did talk about it on the call on the daily video, right? Because I was watching that one in particular.
Mhm.
And I highlighted a few things. So first of all, and I'll fix it today, but I don't want to fix it. I want to fix it live with you guys. So obviously we had this trade 3 days ago, and unfortunately, what a beautiful face is that, isn't it?
Oh.
Anyway, all right. My apologies. Obviously, there's an extra zeros there, right? As you as you know, 0.0.03730. Okay, so my apologies, obviously, on the copy and pasting kind of thing. But then essentially, yeah, it's kind of given that the stop is 0.03730 in a way, right? And then obviously, you know, um, even if you took it with this number doesn't even exist in a way, right? But then if you watch the video, right, let me
Mm.
highlight this trade first because we're still on this trade, by the way. And so launch coin.
Just
Okay.
one general message here, right? Especially for
Yep.
people that are newer to the group or whatever. If you see something that looks an obvious mistake, then do what is suggested in the welcome post and put a comment onto the live trade post itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you email support, you're going to get Rod, you're going to get Johns, you're going to get one of the other people that if you need something else other than trades, they can help you. But they're effectively just going to loop you back to the group and ask you to comment on the post. And the other thing is, if you see something that looks an obvious typo, don't take the trade. There will
Hmm.
be there will be another one that
Well,
comes up.
definitely. And also you can tag I don't know, Ian, is that okay? Like with this type of stuff, okay for me to tag me, you know, and then I'll definitely see anything. Yeah, I might not respond right away because obviously my priority is looking for trades. And that day in particular, also a few trades that that day was a pretty active day, right? Friday was crazy to either direction. So we'll go through what happened on Friday, but then yeah, just want to highlight that. I definitely gonna do an amendment here on this, but then yeah, let's talk about like what I was talking on Friday about Launchcoin because I think it's a good segue. So, and I did talk about it last week. I've been talking about Launchcoin for a while, and that was a trade, and that's still the trade, right? We had a little bit of profit now, right? We took the trade on uh around here, right? And then why? We basically reclaiming these lows. This basically looks like a good deviation. Can you still get into the straight? Definitely. We're just in a little bit of profit now. This is sort of like a medium term, longer uh time frame. That's why my stop loss is really way here. And then I might talk about today a little bit more in terms of sizing, because obviously you guys need to understand, or you need to be responsible on what size do you use in terms of your trades, right? Someone asked in terms here, when do you use a small risk? So obviously I cannot actually answer this question for you, unfortunately, because this is depends of how many positions do you hold, what's your size of your account, what's your risk tolerance, uh, a bunch of different things in terms of leverage. And uh, a lot of you guys know that I don't use the 3x, 5x, or 10x in terms of sizing. We use the position. I will go through it today quickly if you, but we can do in more detail next week if you really want to. But then if you don't know how to do this, just buy a spot, like I say here. Just buy a spot. And spot, what it is just holding the position, right? You're not leveraging, you're just basically buying the asset itself. And then you sell it at a given price and treat it as a, invalidation. Like if the price goes below this, so you just basically sell it. Yeah, you take a loss, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. You will not be able to gain every single trade, and you know, not every single trade that I take is successful. But and I do get stopped out, and I'm glad you guys are not, doing my scalping, or if I do a scalping, I'll say 50% of my trade, if I when I do a scalp, I get stopped out. But the other 50%, they're very profitable. You know what I mean? So if you, that's why it's tough to do scalping with you guys, because obviously you're gonna get really hammered if I start doing scalping trades. You're gonna get a lot of losses, a lot of like stop outs, and then all of a sudden you get all the winners in a row, and then it's happy days. So have that in mind as well. So with that being said, let's talk about Bitcoin, right? Let's do a quick sort of market outlook on what I'm looking at, and then we'll go back into the trades that we took last week and the rationale about it. But I just want to highlight this one because of the title, right? So where you guys at with Bitcoin? Where do you guys are with crypto at the moment? Are you bullish, bearish? What do you think is going to happen this week, though? Bullish. One bullish. Two. Yep, I know. Everybody's waiting for the rate cuts. So that's kind of the next sort of things that is going to be the next catalyst to either direction. All right. Bullish, always bullish. Nice. Yep. That could be Joe. Yeah. Yeah. That's tough to say what something is priced in or not priced in. And obviously, that's kind of what I want to sort of go through it today. So first of all, let's do a quick weekly close, right? Because we just closed the weekly. I really like the way that the weekly close. However, you can actually see this candle that it did not manage to actually even break above the last week's high. You know what I mean? But structurally speaking, right, in terms of trend, this could be seen from the weekly perspective as a lower high. So a lower high, what that means is, you can actually see these peaks here. This is the price does something like this, price up, then it has a pullback, and then the price has continuation. Now this is determined as a lower high. Why lower high? This is the lowest low, lowest lower high, and now potentially we're forming another one here on the weekly. So this is kind of a good price action pattern, sort of in a way. So I like it from that perspective, from the weekly. Tom. All right. So that's from the weekly, right? If we go from the daily, just all right. So the daily is the one that I watch closer because obviously, if you if we have a good daily sort of price action, more than likely, is going to you're gonna see the reaction on the weekly, of course, right? So if you start from the small time frames, definitely, the, the hourly, then the 6 hours, or for the 4 hours, and then the daily, and then the weekly, and then that's how the price action develops. So I think daily is a good gauge in terms of what I'm seeing or what happened over the weekend. So Friday, Friday was brutal, man. Price action looked amazing, and we took some trades based on that. Why? If we have a look at the 6 hours, right? I was watching this level for a while, right? And you guys know that this level here is the 112. I'm not the only one watching that level. So who's watching the level? Institutions, traders, bulls and bears. Okay, so the interesting thing is when we hit that level, this thing just hammered all the way down, and it happening very rapidly. So, in the positive note is that from the 6 hours perspective, the Asian session, it was actually doing pretty good, and actually broke above that level. That's why I decided to start, loading in some positions. Obviously, I did mention to keep the risk low. However, what happened on Friday, right after that, and this was a newer session, like if we bring this down into, let's bring it to 15 minutes, let's bring it even less, 5 minutes, right? This is interesting what happened. This is the price action that happened on 5 minutes, right? So essentially on 5 minutes, on 15 minutes, it wiped out from 113 all the way down to, give or take, 110. Bang, everything got wiped out, right? In terms of leverage, that could be people that actually just get position on the breakouts. So breakouts are very hard to trade in that perspective because you're gonna get a lot of these whipsaws of leverage. So yeah. So that's what happened on Friday. So where we at? So in terms of what happened over the weekend, there's not much action, which is positive, right? Like if we're looking at the 6 hours, all right, nothing actually happened over the weekend, which is positive, right? Not a good sell-offs, no good buy-ins. I did another trade on CRO. We'll go through it because usually what happens, which did not happen this weekend, is that over the weekend, after wipeouts or things like that, you get very liquid markets, and it's very easy for markets to pump, which did not happen. But you know what I mean? I think with this price action, what happened over the weekend, being 10 days away from the rate cut announcement, I think everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen there. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Obviously, if we start getting some traction prior, that could be that the price is actually pricing in, right, in terms of the price cuts, sorry, rate cuts. So yeah, that's where I'm in terms of Bitcoin. If we have a look at the open interest price reaction on Bitcoin, let me just show you something quite interesting. All right, this is why it's still bullish. So we had this liquidation that happened on Friday. You see a massive amount of liquidations here, right? Bang. Now, on the positive note, the spot's still holding, like a spot bought at this level here, right? So at 109, a huge amount of spot buyers came through right here, right? And then that spot sort of positioning is sort of been holding through that level. So it's not hugely, but let's see what happens over like today and tomorrow. And if this continues, then definitely I will remain my bullish short-term position prior to the rate cut. That's kind of the way I'm seeing the market at the moment after everything that happened on Friday, like over the weekend. So yeah, Warren, I'm gonna talk about World Liberty Fund, and I yeah, I was going to call it, but then obviously it was so many trades already on the back of this, so that's why I didn't. But that I think is a good one. So yeah, that's in terms of Bitcoin. That's the thing that I'm seeing. I'm still watching the gap, hasn't been filled. So that talking about the gap. So this gap, like the futures, CME futures gap, it sort of got touched, but it hasn't been filled. So I'm watching this one closely, right? Especially after they fill the gap, right? Is that going to have continuation? Is that going to be a reverse opportunity, right? So I think we're going to get a lot of volatility in the next week or so, prior to the rate cuts and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of Bitcoin. If we have a look at Ethereum, there you go. So Ethereum from the weekly, right? Ethereum from the weekly doesn't look that strong, right? But it's still sort of within this range, okay? The breakout range, call it that way, hasn't actually retraced. And we can see that, the weekly candle is getting lesser and lesser. So obviously, is that going to be a lower high formation here, or is that going to start breaking down here? If we start breaking down this level, the 40 100, I will say that the next place to buy heavily will be around the 3,800. Same thing with Bitcoin. If we
Hey,
start losing, yes,
you just go back to that Ethereum chart just for a second. Sorry,
sure.
just something I wanted to
Oh, that's cool.
pick your brain on. So you see how we close that last week's candle
Yep,
above that support line. Like I
yep,
look at that as like a quite a bullish sign. It doesn't
yep.
mean that there can't be any more downside momentum, but it's like even with that downside wick, we didn't get as far down. So the question I'm laboring to is liquidity. Normally,
Mm-hmm,
the downside wicks, we grab, much lead needed liquidity to get that kind of bounce back up. So
mm-hmm,
in not doing that, because we did that 2 weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
can I summarize, like, is that logical enough that that is a sign of strength, or am I just kind of waffled my way to?
Now, could be sign of strength, could be, right? Because obviously, if you think it from the perspective, and this is a really good gauge, from this level, what I want to see on a bullish sort of scenario is people front running those levels. You know what I mean? So if there is a level, an important level of interest, I don't want to see the level being touched. I want to see the level be front run. Now, here's the caveat. In which time frame do you want to see it front run? Is that going to be on the weekly, on the daily, on the 6 hours, which gets tricky from that perspective,
Can we not
But
just can we not just apply that basic kind of, if it's on the weekly, it's more strong than if it's on the daily?
exactly. You're definitely right on that. So I think the best gauge of what I tend to do is, you have your weekly level, which is clearly, you can actually draw a box because it's not even this one. I will say you have this sort of,
By the
where's
way, the
my,
man with the best beard in Australia has joined us as a
hey,
panelist.
Paul.
Well,
There you go, guys.
Hey,
Nice
man,
to see
what's up? All right. So that box here, you know what I mean? Because that sort of is the low of this week of this August 11 week, and then the next week, which actually week down, I think that could be around that. I
right.
definitely don't want to see, price moving or touching the same low as this one, So
Like
what?
in the term, and sorry, Maurizio, I keep interrupting
Yep.
this.
No, no, no. Please.
in my own kind of self-created terminology, that box there that you've just drawn, I would call that an order block or a liquidity pool. I'd give it one of those two names, but I wouldn't be rigid with it.
Um, it is. I don't want to.
Oh, I
Let
feel
me
like
put
I just
the.
thrown a landmine at you.
All right. Let me put that in perspective. What an order block and all these fancy terms and fair value gaps and all that stuff is, and support and
Yeah,
resistance
top.
and shit
I
like
would
that.
call it a box, a
You, you
zone.
you you can actually see it really nice. There's a really nice order block on the 8 hour with the liquidity just sitting above the order block. You can see it nice and clear there.
All right.
The 8 hour is a good one to look at it on.
Because I don't, obviously we have the terms order block and that's something important to either understand and understand well or don't understand it and forget about it. You know why? Because this is basically are just points of influx in my mind, is where a lot of liquidity is interchange, is where a lot of when the price tried to come down, trying to go up, or it reject, you know what I mean? Like prices where a lot of people are looking into it, right? What is your definition of order block in the first place?
Oh, I I tell you what, Mitz, it's based on being able to draw one in between the candles. Like if I've got a cluster of candles, weeks and weeks and weeks of candles, then I'm going to line up kind of those, you know, bottom of the candles with then the top of the candles below it, and I'm going to find these natural places to draw them. That's why I say it's my own kind of self-imposed naming style.
Perfect. Perfect. And if it is, just, you know what I mean, like make sure that you define it with your own definition. You know what I mean? That's why I don't use because for some people order blocks is where they might think that a lot of orders are being placed. That's
Mm,
one definition. Or you can actually spot this. There is software that you can actually see all the limits that are being placed at different levels, and that could be order blocks. Or you know what I mean? So it's a lot of different things. That's why I don't use the terms. But in a nutshell, is areas and influx, is areas where the price has been before, hasn't been able to break, and that could be a lot of buyers waiting to buy or sellers waiting to sell. You know what I mean? That's kind of,
yeah.
this is an important uh, influx point technically, or turning point technically, right? Same thing as the all-time highs. Very
So
important, very important place to actually, get position or not, right? So you can either think that this is going to go up or think it's going to go down, and this, I wouldn't like, that's why I'm not shorting yet, because
right.
if I short something here, let's say if I'm a short, right? Like they say I'm a seller, right? If I short here, I have a huge influx point here, right? So essentially I'll be fighting against this level. Okay.
Mhm.
So if I short, regular, like the price is here, probably a good stop loss will be probably all-time highs. That's the most common one, right?
Mm.
That like if you're shorting. Now, is that a good risk reward from that perspective? Not yet, right?
Mhm.
But if the price is getting closer, let's say the price gets closer to, let's say here, all-time highs, rejected. Guess what? That's a good short from the small time perspective, because now you could short, right? And if you're right, then your
Mhm.
stop is around here, and guess your target profit could be around the influx point, and that's it. That's how you do sort of like a small time trading. So that's kind of um
There's a few things floating around here. Just looking at the
yeah.
top, I didn't interrupt too much.
Oh
One,
shit, sorry.
accuracy, accuracy in naming,
Mm,
accuracy in understanding, what it is that you're naming. I got one last quick thing on this very thing, and then
yep.
I'll be quiet. So, if we look at the price action that's occurred over the last 6 weeks or so, okay, but we
Mm-hmm.
look at that big breakout candle that goes above that orange line. I can't see the price
Yep.
faces on the screen. Can I look back in history at all the other times that that orange line has been broken, observe the price action from before, and then can I make some kind of statement along the lines of, well, this happened before, Maurizio, so
Yeah,
it's going to happen again, right?
yeah, yes. We did mention this probably like a month ago. And yes, that's the first thing that you do, right? What the price this did in certain areas before that in order to assess certain statistical pattern or whatever. Why? Because obviously that's the price. That's then just always bear in mind is, and this is something that I keep embedding in my head is think about price as what are people willing to pay for an asset at any given time. Okay, that's it. In essence, anything it is like that. Houses, the housing market, the bond market, the crypto market. What are people willing to pay for that? So, with that being said, people were not able to pay more than $5,000 before for Ethereum, right?
Mhm.
In 2021, like fuck this is too expensive. This is going to go to zero, whatever, right? But the other aspect that you have to take into account is what was going on at that time, because we tend to forget that, yes, we do have price action, but in 2021, the
So
a lot of
fundamental news,
the, they were
technology adaptation.
technology,
Yeah,
retention, how many people were using Ethereum as a baseline, how many companies were doing treasurying. No one that didn't fucking exist before. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's a lot of context that are being lost when you do patterns recognition like this. So that's the only thing that's the only caveat that a lot of people don't take into account, right?
Okay.
So and especially when you look into the weekly, when you look into the daily or hourly or even minutes, is actually, I think it's easier to trade that because obviously you're only dealing with the price action of the day and the sentiment with the day. But when you're dealing with macro stuff and macro trends and weekly or even monthly, it's a lot of context that get lost around here. What happened around here? That was the FTX fiasco and all that shit. Cryptos, every single company was scammed. You know what I mean? A lot of different things. Now, where we at? And I did talk about it a couple of weeks ago prior to this breakout, is that I think it's different now, right? Even the price is we forming a different brand new you have companies, real companies on Nasdaq, which I'm going to talk about now. Like, I did show you how to get the data from all the companies that are actually doing treasure portfolios with Ethereum, with Solana, with Bitcoin, right? So that's a massive influx of capital that did not happen before. So now all of a sudden, right, whatever seemed expensive in 2021, fuck that, buying $5,000 Ethereum today may be a bargain. 4,300 Ethereum is cheap, man, because 43 for Ethereum might go to the 17,000. Over the, you start seeing all these forecasts where Ethereum is going to go 2026, things like that. I have seen 20,000, 25,000. I even saw a 50,000 one. Which one is going to be right? Who knows, right? So yeah, that's kind of the only caveat that I want to highlight on that particular sort of. But that's how I take it. I right, wrong. Who knows? You will see. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that detour, man. I think we were just gone on to the Bitcoin when I leapt in and hijacked you.
All right, never mind. All right, let's move on. So essentially, we have that box there, right? Call it whatever. But now, what I want to sort of make sure, I want to monitor the price action on the daily, right? And now, what I'm seeing on the daily is that the price sort of is being front run from this level, but it's losing a strain here. So we are in no man's land in a way, right? Like I'm not seeing any clear, like from the daily perspective, I'm not seeing that this is going to be here or to retouch the all-time highs, or is it going to retrace? I'm not seeing it. unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like this is something that I'm not, the price action, it doesn't look that clear, right? Especially after Friday sort of wipeout in a way. But then we will move on into open interest, and let's see what we can actually see from that perspective. So this is the wipeout, and spot buyers came in heavy on there. This is something very like, this is why to trade on CRO, right? Why? Because this is very telling for me. When you have a wipeout, leverage wipes out, right? But then you do have a lot of CVD volume coming at that level. It means that it's a demand. It means that people are willing to pay this amount of money for this asset. As simple as that, right? And this is a very telling sort of price action for me. Unfortunately, it did not go, like, it did not bounce that. But the good thing is I'm seeing a lot of like a lot of people buying spot here, and that's the price that we want to sort of be aware of always, because spot is the one that actually holds the market and pushes the market to the upside. Leverage, right? If we look at open interest, it could go up like daily up and down, wipeouts, things like that. It's very volatile. But then when we start seeing this, I like it. So far I like it. I like to see that spot buyers are willing to pay this. So what that tells me is that there is now we start going into the probabilities. I do have a 60% probability that we're going to start sort of pricing up, especially prior the rate cut sort of deal, right? So that's kind of my bias at the moment. So that's how I sort of generate the bias. So Solana, and this is the major that I want to talk about. So Solana, it looks fantastic, man. Solana looks pretty freaking good, man. Even though it's been volatile. So I really like. So look at this price action. And what do you tell me? This is the weekly. We just closed. We just created a brand new week. So what do you see about this weekly? That bullish, bearish? Yeah, Todd. Definitely strong upside potential. So I will.
It keeps chipping away at that
Yep.
resistance. So each time it
Yep.
goes up, we're seeing that resistance is just weakening just a little bit.
Exactly. And you see that the rejection gets lesser. So that's something that is called compression. When you see a lot of compression into a very important level, that at some point, either the bulls or the bears are going to win. What that means on compression, and let me just bring this back into daily, right? This compression, you can actually see the compression happening, and like the red candles are getting shorter, and the white candles are getting bigger. So what happens here is that bulls and bears, they are a fight. There's a lot of people that want to sell. There are a lot of people that want to buy, right? Who is it going to win? Whoever wins is going to be a good price action. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that this is going to break to the upside. I'm not saying that. Let's go into probabilities. All right. Let's now go into the open interest, right?
Because what we touched on just a moment ago, Maurizio, I noticed on the weekly that when Solana back in November weekly closed above that level that we're testing, whoosh,
Yeah,
it went off and did lovely things.
exactly. This is the first thing. But now, what was going on with Solana at that stage?
That's
Right.
the new information, yeah.
And now what's going on with Solana now? Okay. So what I'm seeing, and then there's data behind it. Where is it? No, this one, no. The block wars, okay? And this is the companies starting treasury with Solana now, right? So a lot of companies started doing treasury with Bitcoin and then Ethereum, but now Solana is the next sort of.
Yeah.
So that's the start. So that's starting to raise. So the problem is, here's a few caveats that I want to highlight. So Treasury is being the new sort of liquidity influx, right? For price to actually break. Now, if I look at Solana, there you go, Solana. All right. If you watch my video, right? My video from Thursday and Friday as well, I've been talking about this 200 level. And the 200 level, right, is a very important, even psychologically speaking, and also what I'm seeing in terms of inflow. So you can actually see that the first massive amount of buyers, right, happened at that level here at 194. You have a massive amount of CVD of spot buying right there. Okay. Now we had that flush on Friday, right? And then the price sort of deviated a little bit, but then a next wave of buyers came in to support, and now I'm seeing the price start breaking out again, right? So and then we start seeing, so that's for me, this level is well supported. The 206 level is well supported, right? So that's kind of what I'm saying. If I see a huge sellout of CVD, then I'll be bearish. But why? Let me just show you different price actions before. Have a look at.
Whilst he's looking for that, everybody, just let us know in the chat whether you kind of like this format where I ask Maurizio some academic type questions and he does a little bit of teaching, or whether you prefer to see like more coins actually being reviewed. Just give us like, we don't want to turn this into like a weekly classroom or anything, but
Yeah.
maybe we could go a bit deeper. Maurizio's got such knowledge. There must be common points where we can kind of pick his brain on things. So just let us know in the chat, and we'll go through the general sentiment.
I'm gonna answer Donna because that's important. So CVD, Donna, there is this indicator here in Velo data, which is the aggregated spot volume coin cumulative delta. In a nutshell, right? What it is, community delta of the community spot volume. What that means is it captures the volume of all the buys and sellers on spot, right? When you buy the asset, and essentially the delta is if it is positive or negative. The delta is the difference between the buyers and sellers. So when you start seeing a lot of positive community delta, is that the is being accumulated binds, right? So that's basically what a CVD is, right? And the aggregated, what that means is that across different exchanges. So Velo, you have to, you bring Bybit, Binance, Hyperliquid. So that's what the aggregated means. So it's a really good measure to see what the market is doing spot-wise, on any given time. So, all right. Let me just show you. So, because we're not running out of time, but I want to highlight really good, interesting ones. Okay. So, for instance, right here, it's not loading. Okay. When it loads, you can actually start seeing that the spot sort of keeps going down, 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 and you have this massive wick down, right? And then price remains quite choppy until you get a spot buying volume right here. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, if you study the relationship between the community delta and the price, I think is very telling. That's I explain it every single day, right? It's just tough because obviously, the market sort of changes quite rapidly. So obviously, whatever looks good today may not look good tomorrow. That's the only downside of using this type of indicators or gauge. So moving along. So that's why I wanna say that Solana is still on my favorite. Downside, obviously, you see a lot of resistance here at the level here, right? So 218 is the next sort of influx point to shoot to the moon, technically, right? From the weekly perspective, where we are in the daily still looks good. It still looks like it's compressing. So I'm still biased to the upside. So I will say that Solana, now if we enter into possibilities or probabilities, I will say that 70%, I'll say 60%, same thing as Ethereum. We have a high likelihood to break out, right? But that also depends on the what happens on the rate cut meeting and things like that. So yeah, still bullish. So I know we're short on time. So let me go through the positions that we took on last week, because I want to highlight a few things. All right, so we took on Mantle. So this is where I'm saying. So Mantle, right? If you go to the spaghetti charts, right? And the spaghetti charts as well, this is a very good gauge to what's recovering the fastest. So for instance, if I go after the little flusher that we have on Friday, right? And I see what's recovering, which one is this? Dot. Interesting. Okay, Dot seems to be heavily bought at this stage. So it's really good for scalping. But if we start seeing sort of higher time frames, let's have a look at the hourly, or even let's go a little bit. Yeah, let's go the hourly, right? Right. And this is from this month, right? From the last sort of wipeout, I'm seeing that Mantle, Solana, Pole, those are the basis of the trades that we took, right? Are the strongest sort of holders, right? And after the flow shot, definitely I saw Mantle not, not flushing as hard as much as other coins. You can actually see here how strong these ones are. So that's the base of those ones that we took, right? So right here. Yeah, right here. Okay, Mantle, we have Crow, that we took another one. And on the base of, we have this box right here, this liquidity, this order block, this resistance, whatever. So after the push out, right, I'm expecting Crow to come back, right? Is that gonna go to all-time highs? Who knows? But this trade, so I wanna do a difference between what's a trade and what's a spot hold, okay? Because we bought this a while back as a spot, and a spot is planned, whenever we do a spot buying, is planned to do like long-term hold. Long-term could be 3-4 months or something like that. And then ideally I wanna add into that buying. If this goes lower, I'm going to buy more spot. There's no stop losses. There's no nothing. We just gauge by the price action. Okay, that's why we determine what a spot is, right? Now, what a trade is, right? When we do derivatives or when we do leverage, we have certain amount of entry and stop, right? So we say we don't mix it up. Either this trade works or it doesn't, right? But my spot long term, I could be adding more if this starts going down and things like that. So I want to do the differentiation between what a trade is and what a spot buy is. Okay, so have that in mind. So in terms of this trade, we took this trade on the basis of, right, that we holding this area, right? We're holding this area. What I don't like about this trade anymore is that we start losing. Now we start losing these levels here on the 6 hours, right? And if we look at the hourly, right, I don't see a lot of strength. So if we start seeing, price coming back, I might cut this one off, okay? If we start seeing price coming along here, I'll just leave it. But even though my stop loss is here, I might just cut it early. And then if we have continuation to the upside, then I'll re-enter. Okay, so have that in mind. Okay, so if you see that we're going to sell Crow, I'm I'm not selling the spot. I'm still long-term hold this one. I think Crow is going to do well. So that's in the base of that. And we went into Polygon, right? And on the sort of same price action basis. So on Friday, noticing that that level was holding pretty significant, but now we're losing this level here, right? Now we're losing the level here. So if we go into small time frames, then we can actually see that either we reclaim this level here from the, this is the hourly, my bad, daily, sorry, 6 hours. There you go. It looks pretty, it looks like it's compressing, so I like it. So I still like this trade. Looks like it's compressing in the small time frames, but if we start seeing a loss of this level, I might cut it. Same thing, I'll cut this trade. This is a trade, this is not a spot hold. And then if we reclaim to the upside, then I'll re-enter again. So bear in mind the difference between those two, okay? So that's something that I want to highlight with the stuff that we took on Friday. Now, can you still enter to these ones? I will say just hold off. If you're not on those ones, right? And I didn't risk much on these ones, by the way. And 2% or 1% from my account depends on what you do. How you size and things like that. Probably next week we can do a full in-depth sizing class, because we'll be adding, like, when markets, especially now in September, right? When markets are going to get hot, I'm going to be adding a lot of position on leverage, and you need to understand how to leverage properly, okay? Otherwise, you might get wiped out, okay? When we start adding into the same trade and things like that, okay? So probably I was planning to actually do it today, but I think we're gonna run into our. I just want to go through the important things that we watched for this week and the trades that we took, right? So yeah, be mindful that I might cut this one off, right? Besides that, all the other trades are still looking okay. These are the ones that we took on Friday, are the ones that I'm actually watching closely. What I really like, Launchcoin. Launchcoin looks fantastic. So it looks pretty okay on the breakout of this. I think this is gonna go up to probably this level here. That gives probably a 1 to 3 or 4 risk reward when it happens, okay? So yeah, another thing that I want to highlight today, and Ian actually mentioned it, is the seasonality, all right? And let me just show you, because TradingView does have a really good way of measuring seasonality. So you basically go to the asset page, right? TradingView symbols, BTC, USDT, or Ethereum, USDT, or whatever, right? It gives you pretty much all the information about the asset, right? The data points, related pairs. But on the bottom, now they release this called the seasonals, okay? Click on it, right? And you can go as far as 2017. And you can do this for any asset, okay? And what that tells you is how the price reacted from 2017 month by month. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is a lot of FUD or news or things about seasonality, saying that obviously we're going to enter the October seasonality. And if we have a look at here, what happened on September usually is not a great month always, but in 2020, 2020 and 2019 were the best. So everything started on September. You can actually see this one here that was on 2017. Is that 2017? Yes, 2017. Actually, the bull run started a little bit later, right? Started here. So this is when you use, I could be completely wrong in what I'm going to tell you. This is purely speculative, but this is the way that I read it, okay? So you use this information with the stuff that is happening at the moment. So what that means is, I know the seasonality, right? We have everybody has access to this data. A lot of people has access to the data that is going to tell you that seasonality is going to start in September. You know that these 3 years start in September, some of them start in October. What I want to see is people front running this. You know what I mean? Think about it from the perspective that if you have this information and a lot of people are willing to, oh no, this is going to start now. They start buying, they start buying, they start buying, they start buying. And more than likely, that's what this develops, right? Like the seasonality kind of develops. So what I want to see is definitely, especially after the rate cut, I want to see that things will start moving. And that could be the beginning of the bull run. And if we, you know, if I'm right, then we're going to get positioned pretty well. We are positioned pretty well in some coins. If we're wrong, then the next opportunity will be in October, give it or take. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm seeing. All right. I could be completely wrong. This is speculative. There's no data what I'm telling you right now. But this is how I read it. You can actually take it as it does make sense for you, or this I'm completely nuts. But think, you know what I mean? That this is kind of and this is pretty cool too, because if you have a look at others, so others, and this is important. This is important. So others is basically the index, right? It's like the total tree minus Bitcoin minus Solana minus, you know, others is alts minus the 10, the biggest 10 coins, you know what I mean? So others, if you have a look at this, you can actually have a clearer picture when things definitely starts, you know what I mean? When the bull run sort of starts kicking off. But take this with a grain of salt, and here's why. This is great data, but you have to think about, well, okay, let me ask you, what else would you see that it will affect this type of data
What
that
else
we
do
didn't have before?
that this type of data that that would affect this data as of today? So something we've got
Yes,
today that we didn't have before. Well, ETFs.
could be, yeah, but this is others. So essentially, like
Oh,
excluding the biggest 10
okay.
market cap. So you essentially you're excluding all the ETFs data.
Is it that we've got almost new sectors, like the AI sector is here?
You're right on the money.
Hmm.
The amount of coins
Right.
that we have today,
Universe.
including sectors, including new data, including the Solana, including the pump.fun shit, including all that stuff is different with what we had before in 2021, in 2020, in 2000. You know what I'm saying? So this is the kind of thing that I want you to take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Not because the seasonality is there, it means that it's going to happen. Yes, we do have this as an information, but we do have different sort of nuances that happen that are happening right now that did not happen before. So we cannot actually use this, you know, that's why crypto is hard, because everything is new, man. It's tough, man. Everything is new. Like we didn't have treasury companies before. How's the prices going to react? We didn't have pop down fund pumping billions of dollars into the Solana ecosystem. We didn't have launch coin, you know, we didn't have AI, you know. So this is kind of the things that I want to highlight. So far I'm still bullish, very bullish, right? And if I start seeing a lot of front running here, that's going to be my trigger to go a little bit more high risk on it. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm in a summary I want to sort of highlight.
Nice. Very nice. That was a really great session, Maurizio. Shall I see you in 5 minutes
Yep.
on?
I'm probably yeah, I had it prepared for today, but then obviously I want to go through the important. But I think next week we'll open up with how to size properly. I think that, you know, I think it's really important for people to understand, you know, what leverage, what's spot, and if you don't, like we have explained it before, but then we'll just remind. That will be great.
Okay, well, I had a bit of an impromptu vote in the chat, and it seems that people Do enjoy when we go a little bit deeper into
Okay.
some of the how and the why. And there also seems to be, a growing undercurrent for the beard to return. In the chat, people find it very calming.
I'm always happy to please the crowd, mate. Always.
Nice. See you all next
All
week.
right.
Have a
Have
good
a good
one.
Catch
one.
you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.